Hi, everybody. My name is Carolina Morlet, and today I'm going to be teaching you about how to live by faith. And our title of my lesson today is Living by Faith. We are going to be focusing on Genesis 22, 1 through 18. Of course, I'm going to pick specific verses, but we're going to read it all so you guys can have the little story of Abraham and we are going to be reading. I'm really excited on how we are going to be learning about living by faith. Today we will learn God tests our faith to learn to trust Him. Walking with the Lord, when you have received and placed your faith on Jesus Christ, you will. God is going to put different types of tests to teach you on how to live by faith and learn to trust Him. God always wants us to trust Him. What path would you take if God tested your faith right now? Are you the type that complains, departs, or do you trust God? What direction do you normally take? Abraham was a man of God and he was tested, but he was blessed after his test, and that's what we're going to be learning from Abraham. So let's open up our Bibles to Genesis 22, 1 through 18. Sometime later, God tested Abraham. He said to Abraham, "Here I am," he replied. Then God said, "Take your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains I will tell you about." Early the next morning, Abraham got up and saddled his donkey. He took with him two of his servants and his son Isaac. When he had cut enough wood for the burnt offering, he set out for the place God had told him about. On the third day, Abraham looked up and saw that the place in the distance. He said to his servants, "Stay here with the donkey while I and boy go over there. We will worship and then we will come back to you." Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac, and he himself carried the fire and the knife. As the two of them went on together, Isaac spoke up and said to his father Abraham, "Father?" "Yes, my son," Abraham replied. "The fire and wood are here," Isaac said, "but where's the lamb for the burnt offering?" Abraham answered, "God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son." And the two of them went on together. When they reached the place God had told them about, Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood on it. He bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar, on top of the wood. Then he reached out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of the Lord called out to him from heaven, "Abraham, Abraham!" "Here I am," he replied. "Do not lay a hand on the boy," he said. Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." Abraham looked up, and there in a thicket he saw a ram caught by its thorns. He went over it and took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called the place, "The Lord will provide." And to this day it said, "On the mountain of the Lord it will be provided." The angel of the Lord called to Abraham from heaven a second time and said, "I swear by myself, declares the Lord, that because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as the sand on the seashore. Your descendants will take possession of the cities of their enemies. And through your offspring, all nations on earth will be blessed because you have obeyed me." Wow. What an amazing example Abraham teaches us. God asked for his only son. He was very old, so there was no way that he could have any more kids, but he trusted the Lord and he knew that God would provide. And God provided, and God blessed him because of his obedience. Abraham is tested. We see that. We must follow Abraham's example when being tested. Here we see Abraham's test. On verse 2. Take your son, he said, your only son Isaac, whom you love, go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains I will tell you about. Here we see Abraham's test on verse number 2. What is going on in the ancient world? God tells Isaac to sacrifice his only son. Abraham loved his son. Of course, he was his only son, so he loved him. In the modern world, do you think God tests us in recent times? Yes, he does. And as children of God, we will be tested. We need to remember that. And we could use Abraham's example. Are you currently experiencing a difficult test? Are you shivering? Are you sweating during that test right now? The second point that we see with Abraham is obedience. And we see that on verse 3. It says, so Abraham got up early in the morning. We see that he got up early, saddled his donkey, and took with him 2 of his young men and his son Isaac. Okay? Abraham obeyed God immediately, and he woke up early the next morning and took with him his son. We see obedience. He got up early the next day. He said, okay, God asked for me. I'm going to get up early and take my son to offer him to God. What is going on in the modern world? How does that apply to us? During a test, do we find ourselves seeking the Lord and trusting him? Are we being obedient by praying, by reading our Bible during a trial or a test? Are we really looking for the Lord? Are we crying, being depressed, talking to people that we're not, they're not going to encourage us? Always look for somebody like a pastor, somebody that will encourage you to seek God and obey during your test. Are we being obedient to the Lord during trials? Something to think about. And I like this little picture because it says peace through obedience. This is what God wants us to achieve. He wants us to have peace and depend on him during our test. We also see with Abraham that he had faith and trusted the Lord. And we see them on verse 8 and on verse 12. Abraham answered, God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son. Then the 2 of them walked on together. Okay, so we see that Abraham told his son, God will provide. Okay, he trusted the Lord. He remained calm. He wasn't having a panic attack. Then he said, do not lay a hand on the boy or do anything to him, for now I know you fear God, since you have not withheld your only son from me. Here we see that God tells Abraham that he knows that he fears him because he has not held his only son from him. So we see that the faith and trust from Abraham, but we also see how God tells him that he admires the trust that Abraham has had towards him. Isaac asks his father where the lamb for the burnt offering. Abraham tells his son God himself will provide the lamb. Abraham had faith in God and trusted the Lord. He remained calm and did not panic. The angel of the Lord stops Abraham from killing his son and tells him he has shown he feared God. In other words, trusted and loved God. That's what's going on in the ancient world. So how does that apply to our modern world? Are we trusting God with the trial we are facing and know he will provide help? We need to remain calm during moments of test. This is a sign we are trusting the Lord. Are you trusting God and remaining calm? Just remember this picture, just if a test is going on, you're like, okay, God, you have it. I'm just going to sit back and pray. We see the fourth thing that is going on in these verses. We see that Abraham was blessed by God. And here we see it on verse 17 through 18. I will indeed bless you and make your offspring as numerous as the stars of the sky and the sand on the seashore. Your offspring will possess the gates of their enemies, and all the nations of the earth will be blessed by your offspring. because you have obeyed my command. Wow. We were all blessed because of Abraham. And we'll see it on the next one. So here we see what we're going to do a little bit of a summary of what's going on in the ancient world. Abraham was blessed after obeying and trusting the Lord with his only son. Not only his offspring was blessed, but his obedience reached all nations because Jesus Christ descended from him. Wow, what an amazing thing. Christ died for us, and he was a descendant from Abraham. God kept his promise. If God kept his promise for Abraham, wouldn't he keep his promise for us, that we believe in him, that we are children of God? How can we connect that to our modern world? If we obey the Lord and trust him, we as children of God will benefit from the test we are dealing. We will be blessed, and our obedience may reach others as well. It might reach our children. If we are obedient to the Lord, our children are watching us, and they're going to be blessed because they're going to be obedient to the Lord as well. We're teaching them. We're modeling them too. So our families might be blessed. Our friends might be blessed. There's always a blessing during a test. If you obey and trust God with the test you are facing, do you think he will bless you? Yes, he will. And just remember Abraham's test and how he was blessed by God. And you can read any story from the Bible, and it will inspire you that God always tests his children for them to grow. What did we learn from Abraham? Abraham trusted the Lord by obeying him. He lived by faith. We need to trust the Lord and have faith in him. I did a little chart to remind us about trusting the Lord and living by faith. When your faith is being tested, what will you do now? So here you are, so happy. The test comes. Let's remember to remain happy. We need to obey the Lord. How can we obey the Lord? By praying, by staying calm, reading our Bible to encourage us. We can even read this story from Abraham. We need to have faith and trust. That's remaining calm and knowing that God will take care of our problems. And also remember that there will be a blessing. Okay? What path will you take now? Are you going to complain? Are you going to depart from God? Or are you going to trust God? I choose to trust God, have joy, play my tambourine, have fun. You have it, God, praise him. And that's the end of my lesson. Don't forget, which path will you take? Okay? Trust God. Live by faith. Be a model to your children, your family, your friends. Thank you so much, and God bless.